Welcome to Jets Rewind. This is Marty Shupak. I'm in Valley Cottage, New York. I'm joined by Ralph Schrager in Massachusetts and Ray Clifford in Marysville, Ohio. How are you guys doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Very excited about that press conference.
Yeah, I'm just wondering why the camera is always on you, Ralph. Usually whoever's talking, it's on. You hear me okay, right?
I have a certain magnetism.
Yeah, okay. What am I going to say? All right. Anyway, a lot's been happening. And Ralph, we're going to get right to your trivia question. But
Right.
before we do a little bit of house cleaning, and Ralph, I just want to make sure, hold on, guys, just a second.
Three very handsome guys.
We're back.
And there's us.
We're back from a few technical problems. And Ralph, I just want to, I want to do some house cleaning. We'll get into the trivia. I want to make sure I understood. We're going to go through the Zach Wilson, Sam Darnold, Deshaun Watson percentages, right?
Oh yeah, that's a weekly or a bi-weekly or
okay.
Yeah.
We'll do that. A little bit of house cleaning. As Jet fans know, they let go of Henry Anderson. The Jet cap is now at $75,368,314,000. Or 360,314. We're behind Jacksonville by $7 million. Just a note, Desmond Trufant was just let go by the Falcons, a cornerback. And normally I wouldn't report it, but it's just that Jeff Ulbrich, the defensive coordinator, was a linebacker coach in Atlanta for 6 years. So
how old is he?
He's 30 years old.
Yeah.
And, and he didn't.
You can get him on the cheap. That's one thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, if it comes down to him or Sherman, who do you want, Ray?
Yeah. A few years ago, I'd love to have Sherman. He'd be like the Jamal Adams on this team, but, he's just too old and beat up.
Yeah.
Anyway, I haven't watched enough of Trufant to know if he's much different.
Yeah. Eric Burkhart, the agent of Marcus May, is, he's flexing his muscles the other day, saying the Jets don't take care of the best player. I think it's a lot of fodder, as they say. We'll see what happens. Just so you know, Eric Burkhart is the agent for Kyler Murray and Ray. He's the one who signed Johnny Manziel out of Texas A&M, which is interesting.
Probably doesn't want to mention that much.
Yeah. All right, Ralph. It's trivia time, so let's go. I am all ears. I have my
last time I heard someone say that was Ross Perot in a debate. he literally was. Okay, so we're still on the theme of the number 2 draft pick. The last time I asked you, I don't even remember who was picked after Blair Thomas. So I think we know who the number 1 pick is going to be this year. I mean, up until about 2 days ago, it was definitely going to be Trevor Lawrence, but suddenly things are getting out of hand with the Zach Wilson craze. But anyway, we're going to sue as Trevor Lawrence.
Would it be amazing that
that would be unbelievable?
They threw a curveball. Yeah, I mean, really. All right, go ahead, Ralph.
Who was the first pick before Lamb Jones and before Blair Thomas? Do you know?
Well, Lamb Jones.
If you want, I can give you their positions.
Sure.
One was a running back, one was a quarterback.
Well, Ray's going to get this. I'm not.
No.
I have some confidence in Ray. Marty, I have total confidence in you not getting it.
If I could sneak on to
anybody now.
If I could sneak onto the Jets Rewind website, the draft page, without you seeing me, I might be able to come up with it.
Ray's able to do it without us noticing all the time.
Okay.
I can't think of anybody right now.
Anyway, let's get going with the agenda. Ralph, I want to jump to the odds right away. And for you new listeners of Jets Rewind, every week Ralph has led the chorus in 3 options, and we have to put a percentage on. And Ralph, why don't you just describe it again for the new listeners?
Well, obviously there are 3 options. Either Darnold will be our quarterback next year, Deshaun Watson, or a high draft pick, either Wilson or Fields. And so we put percentages on what are the odds for each of them. And I'll start.
Well, hold on.
What?
It's not going to be Justin Fields. it's going to be Zach Wilson, Ralph. There's no way they're going to take Justin Fields.
Well, I hope you're right, but and I think you're right, but I'm just doing it with respect to Justin Fields. All right, maybe it'll be Mac Jones. Who the hell knows?
He wouldn't do it if there wasn't a Buckeye fan on this podcast.
That's right.
I'm just laughing because you're listening. Do you think any of the Jet hierarchy are listening to these mock drafts and these clowns giving?
Well, I just listening,
including us.
Well, it's funny because I think Joe Douglas, they know what's going on out there, and I think Joe Douglas actually spoke to that indirectly. We'll talk about that in a few minutes.
Just quickly, Ralph, before we get into it, and Ray, your point, I know what you're saying, but despite, and I listen every week to Mel Kiper and Todd McShay, despite what Todd McShay says, I don't believe that he doesn't have any influence over Joe Douglas or doesn't listen to him.
I believe that they're going to bring these guys in or go to their pro day and then decide. I don't believe for a second that they're going to make a decision this early based on Mel Kiper, Pro Football Focus.
Well, Mel Kiper wants them to keep Darnold, so they're already not listening to him.
Yeah.
I don't think McShay has much of any sway on Joe Douglas. Really, right, I don't.
Go ahead. I'm just trying to create, a little bit of front page news. Go ahead, Ralph.
So my percentages are 90% Zach Wilson, 10% we run a Wildcat with Ty Johnson.
No, come on.
I would say about 10% Watson and 0 for Mr. Darnold.
Well, it's funny because I have 70% Zach Wilson. I have 20% Sam Darnold, 10% Deshaun Watson. Ray?
I'm not sold on anything at this point. I'm at 50%, although I am down. I'm down to 50% on Sam, 49 on Wilson, and I'll give 1% just for the fun of it.
Ray is stubborn, huh?
I won't buy into Deshaun Watson unless they pull the trigger.
No, not about Deshaun Watson, but still thinking that the best chances for Darnold. Wow.
I just think they haven't made a decision yet. And boy, if they decide to stick with him and trade that number 2 pick, they can surround him with a whole bunch of stuff. So,
well, we know that. That's the one argument for keeping Darnold,
right.
But there are too many against. Yeah.
After listening to Joe Douglas, I just was trying to read between the lines like everyone. I just have a feeling that they're going to go with they're going to ship out Sam Darnold. If it's a conditional 2 from Chicago, that's going to be it. But I think he's seen his last days as a Jet. Again, that's today, Ray. You know me. I can wake up tomorrow and I can say they're going to get Deshaun Watson.
I mean, how many press conferences has Joe Douglas had?
Not many.
Not many. Has he at any point said directly, I'm taking phone calls for Sam Darnold? You know, I mean, things have changed.
Yes,
hugely.
Absolutely right, Ralph.
I agree. And I think that's no different than the Jamal Adams situation. He's the GM. He's gonna.
Yeah, and look what happened to Jamal Adams. He got traded.
Well, yeah, Jamal also talked his way out of town.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the reason I think he said that yesterday. I don't think they are totally, completely done scouting these college kids, but I think they've had time to see enough to where they know that they're comfortable with at least one of them, and they can live with that. So they're putting Darnold out there. I mean, if they weren't sure, he'd be crazy to do that to Darnold. I mean, how do you think Darnold feels right now? I mean, who's doing that to their quarterback in the NFL?
Right. And Ray, well, I just want to.
Mike Mayock just said that he thinks that Carr is one of the best quarterbacks in the league after a day after the all kind of talk about him getting traded.
Well, yeah, because he realized he's his own worst enemy if he doesn't build him up.
Listen, going back last year to June and July, when Jamal Adams was talking his way out of town, Joe Douglas stated that the only one he's not going to trade untradeable is Sam Darnold. We'll all agree that things have changed since then, right? He's taking phone calls. Yeah. Okay. Ray, I'm going to disagree with you. I don't believe that their pro days are going to have any influence on them. That's just my feeling. I'm not saying they made up their mind right now. I don't think going on the
You
field.
think they're going to go based on film?
Yes, I think they're going to go based on film
I
and
can't
maybe interviews. But I don't think what they're going to do at the pro day is going to matter. I really don't feel when it.
Why not? They can at least tell them to, okay, they can probably say, I want to see this kind of throw or that kind of throw and see things like that. Or maybe, like you said, the only thing I'd say about interviews is the only way to me an interview is of any use to those guys is if they sit them down and say, okay, here's some tape. Break this play down for me, break this defense down for me. Because otherwise, what's an interview? I mean, some guy could talk his way onto the team who can't do the job. I mean, I'm not sure other than,
Well, I think they want to size up a guy's personality. A quarterback has got to be the leader of the team, the face of the franchise. And, they can size up his maturity and just whether he has the right personality from New York or something like that.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just
I don't think that's what's gonna. I don't think they're gonna decide to draft him based. They could say
it's just one piece. That's all. Yeah. The pro day is one small piece too.
Yeah,
watching a guy throwing shorts to uncovered receivers, I don't think is nearly as helpful as watching him on game.
Well, I think it is if they're running a kind of a timing pattern type of thing where, okay, have them run a timing pattern. This throw's got to be there right on time. But, he's throwing to his own guys and everything. It's not going to be great, but,
right.
I mean, that's what sold him on Sam a lot was I remember reading that it was a big rainy day and Sam was outstanding in the rain.
Yes.
Well, I remember McCagnon was there. He was in love with Darnold even before that. And after that, Darnold put on a good show. He turned to one of his guys and said, that's it. We're never going to get him. But I think he had already made the decision. He was going to pick him if he was there before that.
By the way, that year, and he's been in the news a lot this week. Do you know the year of Sam Darnold? Do you know Chris Sims, who he had rated as the number 1 quarterback and number 2 quarterback coming out?
Allen and the kid from Louisville, right?
Lamar Jackson was number 1. Josh Allen was number 2.
Yeah.
Baker Mayfield was number 3. And Sam Darnold was number 4. I'm not saying that, what he says is biblical or in concrete, but he seems to know what he's talking about. Now, Ray, I just want to say to you, okay, and I love this give and take. I love disagreeing. If they have Zach Wilson rated as their top quarterback right now, talent-wise, what do you think on his pro day would take him out of that spot, if whatever he does?
I'm not. Well, that he could throw lousy. I mean, even to his own guys and a bunch of wide open guys, he could look terrible. I mean, if it was something like that, I mean, that's about all that could go wrong. I think it's more a case of they've got to decide on Sam than they do on Zach Wilson or Justin Fields for that matter. The big, and let me say this too, Justin Fields is not going in the 20s. Justin Fields is going to be.
Oh, I know. He's going to be.
You're hearing that a lot now too.
No. He'll be a top 10 pick. And don't get me wrong. If by some chance miracle they trade out and they're at number 6 or 7 and Justin Fields is there and they take him, I'm not going to be disappointed.
I'm not going to be. The big knock now on Fields is he only does one look. Well, if your first look is open, you're probably throwing it to him. It's as simple. Chris Olave was open most of the year, so he didn't have to do a second or third. But actually, the number 2 receiver had as much of an offensive year as Olave when they were both on the field. So he clearly was going to his second read.
Well, just because he's the second best receiver on the team doesn't mean he's not the first read in that particular play.
No, but usually it's Olave. Most times he's looking at Olave first and then going. But they might double Olave, so that would take him off of that read. I just thought that stuff was ridiculous. Now, I still think Zach Wilson's going to be the next guy taken. I'll never believe that Jacksonville won't take Lawrence, but unless they don't, and then obviously they don't. But I think Zach Wilson's the next one, whether it's us taking him or whoever trades up to take our spot. I think it will be We'll see.
He's going to be the second player picked.
Yeah. I believe that too.
Right. If Joe Douglas is offered that conditional number 2 from Chicago, and you're Joe Douglas, what would you do?
I'm not taking it unless it's draft day and we're on the clock, and that's all we can get. Because that conditional draft pick supposed in that mock was next year's conditional number 2, and I'd like to know what the condition is. Can it go up from there, or conditionally there or down?
I'm sure it's like related to that last trade, like 70% of the snaps, and 75% of the snaps, or 70% if they make the playoffs.
I'm only doing that if that's the only offer I have, and it's, we're on the clock in the draft. But the only problem with that is they have to make up their mind about this 5th-year option before the draft, right?
Well, some people don't think they do. Like I disagree with Rich Cimini. Cimini says they shouldn't exercise it, bring in another quarterback and put some sort of pressure on Sam Darnold. I think that's the wrong approach. If you're going to go with Sam, I say you pick up that 5th-year option, and because of the salary cap, it went down from like 25, I think, to 18.7. So I don't think it's awful, but I think if you're going to go with him, you got to give him full support with your team, with the personnel, and also from the front office. And I would exercise that option.
Chicago did not give Trubisky an extension last year. They let him twist in the wind on his 4th year.
Yeah.
The Jets could do that with Darnold too. It's not a good thing to do psychologically.
Yeah.
But
if he works out in this offense and everything, then they've really not. Then
what happens if he works out okay? And then you got to decide, am I going to get this guy?
Yeah, it's a chance either way they go.
Yeah. Let me just bring up one thing here about Darnold. People have been saying, excusing him because he's been on a horrible team with horrible coaching. So what I did was I did a comparison of the last 2 years of Darnold and Gardner Minshew, who played on the worst team in football. Jacksonville the last 2 years was 7-25. The Jets were 9-23. Gase at a 400 lifetime percentage. Doug Marrone, Marty's favorite, was 388. So they're both terrible coaches and they're both terrible organizations, bad records. I compared their 2 seasons. That would be Darnold's 2nd and 3rd season, as opposed to being Minshew's 1st and 2nd. So Darnold had an extra year. As far as passing percentage goes, about equal, 62-61 Minshew. Yardage, 5,500 to 5,200 Minshew. Touchdowns to interceptions, 28-24 Darnold. Minshew, 37-11. If Darnold was 37-11 the last 2 years, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. He'd be the quarterback.
Can I interrupt you though?
Yeah.
Great evaluations. Just so we know if we're comparing apples to apples, how would you compare Jacksonville's offensive line and the receiver situation during that time?
I look at their team's record. Okay, I don't know. I don't watch Jacksonville play that much, but they had a worse record than the Jets. That was not a good team. All right.
But I will say that from what I read, from what I was reading, and I didn't look into it stats wise, but from what I was reading, and the ones talking about how Jacksonville can turn their team around really quickly. Part of it was that Lawrence is better off going to them because their offensive line is far superior to what the Jets was. Now that could change by now too. I know that, I think Marty, you sent the stat that Sam had the least time in the pocket of any quarterback in the NFL over this span. And I think we saw that in action. We didn't have to watch Jacksonville to know that was part of the problem, whether or not, but let's face it, Sam struggled at times too. That wasn't that. He just, it looked like he'd just completely lost his mind at times and was thrown to guys who, weren't even close to being open. So I'm not going to say Sam wasn't at fault at all.
Just Ray, the stat that again stood out, which I always refer to going into last season before 2020, I think it was Pro Football Focus did a stat that when Sam Darnold had at least the average amount of time in the pocket protection, the Jets are 7-1. I don't know if you can transition that with a whole change of personnel. And we talked about, I don't know if you could undo Sam Darnold. We all agreed that you could undo him. There's a better chance of undoing him than undoing, let's say, Carson Wentz. But I'm not sure it could be done. So it's a tough choice. I mean, I'm starting to drink the Ralph Schrager Kool-Aid, saying, I'm all in at Zach Wilson. I mean, everything.
I'm not saying I'm not either in the sense that if that's the direction they go, I'm not going to, be the least bit disappointed. I just think they're going to, I think even Douglas, I think, is going to defer to LaFleur and Saleh as to what they want to do. And I think that's where where the real decision is going to be made is, does LaFleur really think he can do it? Or is LaFleur also sold on Wilson? And if he's gung-ho on Wilson, they ain't trading that pick. They're trading Sam.
Well, I mean, the LaFleur and Saleh don't have to think about the money aspect of it. They're just thinking on the field.
No, but
the money aspect of it is huge, and that's on Douglas. He has to factor that in.
Right.
I think he gets the final call. I don't think there's any doubt about it.
I just have the feeling the last few weeks with the quarterback musical chairs, and I just feel that his demand for Sam Darnold isn't what it was like 3 or 4 weeks ago.
I have no idea. Those are just reporters throwing out ideas.
No. I haven't read anything on that, but just the Stafford trade, the Roethlisberger just resigning. I just think these little things. I don't hear the demand for him. I mean, I've heard
that doesn't mean it's not there. They aren't gonna. Why would he go out there and talk about what he's getting unless he's set on getting rid of him? We've heard they're getting calls. That's all I've heard. I didn't hear any details about what's being offered. The only thing we've seen is these mock supposed trade offers.
Let's rewind the clock again. Let's just go through it quickly. Let's name like the teams that might be interested in Sam. Chicago Bears. Who else?
Washington
football team. Who else?
San Francisco.
I don't think so. I think they're going to go back with Jimmy G. That's my feeling. Okay, so
I disagree. I think they want to get rid of him. I think Darnold actually is a better fit for them because he's somewhat much more mobile and he has a strong
Atlanta.
Atlanta's got such a high draft pick, though. I don't know if they'd want Darnold.
How old is Matt Ryan? Is he 35?
36, 35, 36.
Well, quarterbacks, look, they're going, he's got like 4 or 5 more years.
Yeah, I know. It's a new regime, though. They probably want their own guy.
Okay, who else? You see, I just don't think.
Denver.
I think Denver is going to make the play for Deshaun Watson. I think that's the team that's going to.
I don't think they have what it'll take to get him.
I think
the Patriots.
Huh?
The Patriots.
No, yeah. Bill's too cheap to give up that. No, but who does Denver have?
Right.
They have Locke.
Would you take a one?
No, I mean, what do they have to send to Houston that makes Denver a player?
They'll give a number 1 and number 2 for 3 straight years. I mean,
if Houston wants to wait that long.
Hey, Ray, would you give up? Would you take a 1 and a 3 from Belichick for Sam?
Carolina Panthers.
Be the defensive coordinator.
Carolina Panthers. You're right, but yeah, Carolina Panthers. But I think they're going to take Mac Jones if he's there at 8. That's my feeling. All right, let's move on to the agenda. I mean, I love talking about that too. Ralph, what's next? Did you want to go?
Well, there was a couple more things that I want to cover in his press conference. First of all, someone asked him, what his approach is going to be on free agency this year. And he said, my philosophy is going to be the same as last year, which I'm glad to hear. I don't want him spending big bucks on Allen Robinson, guys like that. The Jets are in no position for that right now. If you want to spend big bucks on a free agent, you got to be really near going to the Super Bowl. That's your supplement. I'd like to see him get some offensive linemen. We can talk about that. But and the other thing was when someone asked a cryptic question about Deshaun Watson, and he answered it by saying I believe you build a team through the draft. And he said that twice, which I don't think eliminates him from listening to Houston, what Houston has to say. But I think we can sleep well knowing that he's not going to give up the ranch for Deshaun Watson. He knows that that's insane.
Well, Ralph, the only rebuttal I would have is, to be honest with you, I heard Mike McCagnon say the same thing. You build a team through the draft. I heard Mike Tannenbaum say the same thing. You build a team through the draft. John Ezak, I don't know what he said.
And then Tannenbaum traded away the
Yeah,
farm.
no, he did. Yeah, but that's my point. I mean, everyone's saying
Yeah,
it.
Joe doesn't seem like that type.
Well, Joe also has been involved with 2 Super Bowl winners, and he more than those guys knows how a team is built.
And the one thing I would say in Joe's corner is the fact that Ralph and my favorite Ozzie Newsome was who he learned under.
Mentor.
And Ozzie Newsome was a tremendous general manager who knew the value of accumulating or trading down and accumulating draft picks. So that's what I would say. So, Ralph, I hope you're right. I mean, we want draft picks. That's what I want. But I hear it over and over again. I just hope he does it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, these people who, I love the way they throw around these Jets assets. You know, they probably want the deed to the Atlantic Health Club, as well as 10 draft picks and Quinton Williams, and basically Mekhi Becton will throw him in too. You know, it's ridiculous.
They really have no.
We got another month and a half of this too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I know that. And you know, hey, by the way, Marcus May is a free agent. I got a quick question for you guys. As the clock is our enemy right now. I came across a site called NFLTradeRumors.com, and they list the top 50 free agents. I just want you guys to, where do you think he had Marcus May listed? 1 to 50. Ray, you go first.
3.
27.
21. I think, Ralph.
I'm trying to think the most ridiculous.
I think Ray works for this guy Burkhart, the Asian of Marcus May. All right. Anyway,
he had a good year.
Yeah. Next on the agenda, which unit do we think is the most important on the football team for free agents? And
no, that's not my question. My question is, which unit is the most important unit in football?
Well,
you know,
I think the offensive line.
Well, so do I. I mean, quarterback is the single most individual, but without a good offensive line, a quarterback is useless. And that sort of dovetails into the free agency. Where should we go free agency wise? And I think got to attack the inside of the line.
Brandon Sharf or
I'm surprised you're interested in him, Marty. You hate guys who have injury history.
Well, I would go with Tunney, or I would also be before Sharf. I would go with the center from Green Bay.
Lindsley,
and then you could move McGovern to guard. Though
I agree. I'd take either him or Tunney. I'd be happy with either of those guys.
Both. I don't think he's going to do both, but I would take both. And Ralph, I kind of like your guy, Creed Humphrey, the college player, maybe, a second round pick or the first round pick, Slater, the guy from Northwestern. And
the guy from USC if Slater's not there.
I'll tell you about Slater. I've been reading a lot about him. This guy, he looks like a gym rat, because what he's been doing is year off. He's been practicing at all 3 positions, including center, guard, and tackle, because he wants to be like a very diverse type of player going into the NFL. So I really like everything I'm seeing about this guy and hearing about him.
Well, we all like diversity these days, so that's good.
We do, but nobody likes diversity in ideas. You know that?
That's right.
Oh, when it comes to diversity in ideas, they don't want to hear it. All right, quickly, because then we're going to get to the trivia question. Which ex-Jet will play in the Super Bowl first? Jamal Adams, Brian Winters, or Henry Anderson?
Where's Henry Anderson doesn't have a team, so he'll probably be the first. I'll say Brian Winters.
Ray?
I don't think either of them will, but so I'll go with Henry. Henry Anderson will sign with the Buccaneers. And
that's exactly what I was going to say, Ray. I think his best year was with Todd Bowles. I think he's going to sign with the Buccaneers. I think he's the one that's going to get to the Super Bowl first. All right.
They're not getting back there.
He won't play, but he'll be on the team.
We
He'll
touched
be like
upon
Wayne Deber.
Chris Sims, Matt Miller. Ralph, I don't know if you remember when he was on the show. I had him on the show years ago.
Vaguely.
Matt Miller has really done well for his career. I mean, he just is like 24/7. He was a young kid like us, Ralph, but he really devoted his life to the draft. And I guess he's on the Draft Scout and Bleacher Report and all that. And he likes Zach Wilson better than Trevor Lawrence. He's one of those guys.
Chris Sims, Joe Theismann, and me.
Yeah, and you too. Yeah. So I thought that was interesting. Look, it's going to be a fun few weeks. We're going to be going through the same thing over and over again. It's going to change. So we'll see. Ralph, you have something called Bradshaw's, Ripley's.
Yeah, you didn't hear this story that's going around?
I did. Yeah,
you did. You haven't heard it, Marty. So
Marty will love it.
Marty, someone came up, found a news clipping dated in 1983 from Shreveport, Louisiana. When I heard that, I immediately thought Louisiana Tech, Terry Bradshaw. There's an article.
Jack Cordero.
Yeah, that's right. Bradshaw was off season. He wanted to get some shoulder surgery in a hospital in Shreveport. So he checked in, but he didn't want anyone making a fuss over him. So he gave him an alias, and the alias was Thomas Brady. So Bradshaw's got 11 Super Bowl rings now. So he's the winner.
That's funny. But wasn't that alluding to when Brady checked in, he used the name Bradshaw or something? Did I hear that?
No, I didn't hear that. But Brady was 6 years old at the time. He must have been quite a precocious passer.
No. Brady just had that knee operation.
And did he?
I think I vaguely heard this story, but I think somebody said that you check in as Terrence Bradshaw or something.
Oh, you mean to say the avocado yogurt didn't keep his knee from getting injured? I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah. I know Ray felt bad. Ray sent him a get well card, Ralph. You know that.
Hey,
yeah.
Not to change, Ray, for just real quick, because we were talking about the free agents. There are a couple out there that I thought would be interesting. One of them may get tagged. Taylor Morton's a right tackle out of Carolina who's been pretty good. But the guy that I thought we might get at a decent price who could really help is a guy out of Pittsburgh, Matt Feeler. He played both guard and tackle. He could be somebody we could.
How old is he?
Free agent. I think he's in his mid-20s to late 20s. Not an older guy.
Is he unrestricted?
He must be. He was in the top 100 free agent list. Feiler.
Okay.
He's at number 4, right after Marcus May.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, there are a couple guys on the line who might
right.
Who might be good that we might be able to get at a reasonable price.
Ray, I still like as far as the receiver, it's Curtis Samuel from Carolina too.
Yeah, Will Fuller wouldn't be bad, I don't think either. Right. And Rashad Higgins out of Cleveland is probably not going to be re-signed by them.
We got Will Fuller. He could bring along Deshaun Watson with him.
By the way, the Saints let go of tight end Jared Cook, 33 years old.
Speaking of tight ends, you know who else who might be a free agent is the one out of San Diego, Hunter Henry.
Oh, yes, you're right. Ray,
he's going to get a lot of money. I don't think it'll be worth it. But,
by the way, Ray, the reports that Kyle Van Noy was being let go were a little premature. Now they said they're not going to let go of him. They're going to let the trades.
But after you let it out that you're going to get rid of them, that kind of dries up the trade market pretty quick.
It's like right now, you think any agents are talking, or any teams are talking to agents somewhere?
Unless somebody really needs a edge guy, which,
All right, we're going to wrap it up. We got to go back to Ralph's great trivia question, which Marty knows nothing about. Repeat the trivia question.
I'm busy on this other stuff.
We had 2 number 2 picks over the last 60 years until this year. Lamb Jones in, I think, 80 and or 79, I don't know, 79, 80. Yeah. And Blair Thomas in 90. Who were the first players picked in that draft before them? One was a running back who had a terrific start to his career, was a great player, but injuries, really shortened his career. The other was a quarterback who had a very mediocre career. Never liked the guy in college, but he had a big arm, so people, you know, gravitated toward him.
Wasn't Vinny, right? Because he
I do know the quarterback, Ralph. I have to tell you.
All right. Who is it?
Jeff George.
That's right.
Yeah.
he
Okay.
was terrible.
I don't. Yeah, terrible. But
You know, the funny thing is I looked up his numbers and, you know, after he got out of his original team, he had some pretty good years, a few, but I never liked the guy. I never liked his throwing motion.
right.
Or anything.
And what about the Lamb Jones? I don't know anything about that.
You don't know, running back, Heisman Trophy winner, was a star for a few years in the NFL, and then just his career.
R.G. Griffin.
George Rogers, you're gonna say?
No.
No, I give it to you. It's Billy Sims.
Billy Sims. What are your favorites, Ralph?
I love Billy
You
Sims.
know, if he could have stayed healthy, he was
Yeah.
outstanding.
All right, that's going to about do it for Jets Rewind. This has been Marty Shupak, joined by Ralph Schrager and Ray Clifford. Please check out our website. And if you do listen to this, give us a 5-star review if you can, if you like us. We try to make it as entertaining as possible.
If you don't like us, give us a
right now.
5-star review.
Right. So until next time, this has been Marty Shupak and Ralph and Ray.